Have you ever been in a situation where something you said was taken totally out of context and then it was either used against you or used to hurt someone else? Maybe someone overheard a portion of a conversation, but not the whole thing, and that one statement was interpreted way differently than you ever intended it to be. Or it's a text message you send maybe, which allows no room for emphasis or nuance, even when you add the most carefully chosen emojis. Maybe that text is taken out of context and ends up making someone mad or hurting someone's feelings. This can easily happen to any of us, right? And in the Bible, it is no different. Passages can easily be picked out, spewed out, and used in completely inappropriate ways as well, all because the context was never considered. As you read verses from Mark chapter 10 today, there are a number of places where any of us could jump to big conclusions about what a follower of Jesus should or shouldn't do or believe or say to live a Christian life. There are statements about divorce, about gender, about wealth, about life's possibilities because of God. And I can guarantee that many of us have heard these passages, or some like them, used to the detriment of other people. So I encourage you to read these verses with a different lens today. See, we have to be reminded that everything Jesus taught was at first addressing societal structures and cultural norms of his day. In ancient Jewish law, for example, a woman was regarded as a thing. She had no legal rights, and the result was that a man could divorce his wife on almost any grounds. There were very few situations when a woman could seek divorce. In that time, religious and political life was connected to a specific understanding of family. It was thought of in somewhat of a utilitarian way. The family functions like this, so society can function like this. Children, similarly, didn't have any rights. They were to be seen, but not heard. Children weren't the type of thing you wasted your time with if you were a person in any type of authority. It was also common to see wealth tied to faith. On one hand, the more wealth you had, the closer you could come to God by simply buying your way there. In some instances, you had to purchase your way to the innermost part of the temple. You would buy animals to be sacrificed in order to receive forgiveness. There was also a strong connection between wealth and status. People without wealth had very little power or influence in social and religious matters. And we need to remember that everything Jesus teaches throughout the book of Mark and elsewhere in the other Gospels where we read about Jesus' life as a whole, it's reminded us that the status quo was never what Jesus was after. Whenever the rules and the rituals get in the way of loving other people or looking out for people who are often forgotten, that is when Jesus says, hey, think twice about that. So maybe Jesus is taking this approach. Maybe he's reminding us and reminding his audience, for instance, that seeking marriage just for one's own pleasure or to follow some sort of social norm, that's not what God desires. Yes, divorce will happen, and sometimes that's the best. We all know this, but we also know that divorce is painful. So maybe we all need to take a moment to remember from the start not to take our marriage lightly. And yes, children require a lot of responsibility. They demand a lot of time. But it can make all the difference in the world to any kid when we, just like Jesus, pause for a minute to take them in our arms and remind them that there are adults in their lives who care. And when it comes to our ideas about heaven, it's easy for us to think that we just need to do the right things or be the right person to somehow earn our way there. But it's pretty easy to turn in on ourselves, to take our success or our fortune and to simply hoard it, to forget about people around us. All this stuff that we've accumulated, we can't take it with us. So Jesus says, with man this is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God. And maybe he's not intending for us to pluck that statement out of context and say to the world, I can do all things or have all things because I have God. But rather to be reminded that for God, possibilities are never tied to our stuff. So here are a couple of questions for you today. Number one, when have you seen Scripture taken out of context? And number two, What changes when you read the Bible, remembering its context and knowing that Jesus always focuses on people who were lost or forgotten?